Welcome to my channel. February and winter are almost over, and I decided to look back at the whole season and to check which snow winter pictures I managed to color. Unfortunately, there were not as many of them as I did during previous previous winters. You know that probably winter is my favorite season to color because I absolutely love all pictures with Christmas elements, Christmas trees, Santa, Christmas ornaments and all other things. And I am ready to color them during all 3 months and maybe even longer. But this season I was totally obsessed with Kerberosanes, so I blame my lack of winter pictures to Kerberosanes, to Mythic World, where I tend to select huge spreads and to color them with pencils. Because of it, I hadn't touched my books by Vladislava Schaffer-Hans where I wanted to do winter landscape, or I hadn't touched mythographic Wild Winter, which I wanted at least to start using. And so far I have only this small pile of books where I have winter pictures. Let's start from this jolly where I have slightly creepy Christmas pictures. Here I tried to use wonderful properties of this watercolor paper, and majority of pictures I did with watercolors or with water soluble pencils. So I did this Lucia. I really love this portraits where girls from Scandinavian countries, they participate in this celebration of Day of Saint Lucia, and they wear wreaths with candles on their head. I think that here I managed to show this good contrast between dark background and a very light halo around candles. As I said, I tend to use all properties of water-soluble materials, so here I have Derwent graphitins, Derwent inktanks, watercolor, then pearlescent watercolor on top to add more shining. My next work here I did because I'm a huge fan of figure skating, so Derwent inktanks and a little bit of watercolors. The only area where I am not very happy is how I did reflections of the light coming from the lantern on her body. They were too strong. Maybe I will try to mask them a little bit, or maybe not. Anyway, it was a good way to return to inktanks pencils, which I slightly abandoned during last months, last years, when I stopped to color so frequently in Lizzie Mary Cullen's book. And finally, I have this one with creepy Christmas tree. It's actually very shining because I used my methyl watercolors. They are shining between green and gold, interesting watercolor paint. And I do love this black-green watercolor which I did with Rosa granulating watercolor, beautiful one. I think that's all for this book. Well, of course, I wanted to color more, but maybe it will have to wait until the next winter season. Among all my mythographic books, my most popular so far are Paradise and Frozen Fantasies. They have biggest amount of finished pictures. Frozen Fantasies I started last year. I did couple of pictures, then I even added a couple of finished pictures during summer season. Surprisingly, I don't mind to color pictures with ice, snow, snowflakes even during hot summer weather, so maybe somewhere in July or August I will add more pictures here. But during this December I managed to do one page which I am not a big fan of, this ice cream. Here I decided to test my new Color pencils. They were not bad because they have very rich colors, but I had problems with applying more layers. I think the 2 layers were maximum what I managed to get on this paper. Also, I struggled a lot with this empty background, which I don't like too much. Very busy left bottom corner, and comparing to it quite empty the rest of the background. That's why I don't like this picture a lot. And I also didn't know which colors to use for this building inside of the ice cream, so it looks, I don't know, slightly lost. We can't concentrate attention on it. But at least I love how I did various types of ice creams, various tastes, and how I did waffle here. When I color in this book, I try to use a lot of cold colors, cold shades to maintain this atmosphere of frozen season. And maybe that's why I struggle with some of the pictures, because I can see them in more warmer colors, even with summer flowers, but how to color them with winter atmosphere, sometimes it can be challenging. Also, many pictures are extremely detailed, like this one. I started this snail because I really loved shapes of these flowers, and I immediately imagined them in those bright electric blue colors. Here I even managed to use my Derwent color sauce, but then when I started to color everything else, two types of flowers, various crystals, then this castle inside of the snail. Well, it was so confusing. It's very difficult to color all elements and to get not motley but a well-balanced color combo for the whole page. So sometimes it can be even overwhelming. I can't say that I love this castle. It doesn't match the rest of the page, but I didn't know how to color it in other way. I hope that those red roofs will help somehow to divide it from the background to attract more attention to it, but I do love snail. I think that it looks nice with all color gradients, delicate shading from yellow to terracotta and ochre. I do love flowers, but this inner part, I don't know. But now I will show you a page where I absolutely love everything, and it was pleasure to color. I have my space penguins. As usual, I did background in blue colors. I think that it's most traditional one in my books, but apart from indifferent blue and violet and magenta, which I added on top of the sky, I also added a little bit of metal watercolors, both for the sky and for those falling, I don't know, snow or maybe it's comet. A lot of strange elements in this book, but I decided that those light green, blue-green colors, they can be helpful everywhere. So I use them for elements on the sky, I use them on ice, and I think that those tiny lilac magenta flower, probably magenta flowers, they added interesting, nice touch. Similar colors here and here helped me to balance upper and bottom part of the page. Of course, to color penguins, which are white and black, it's challenging when you have very colorful background. But when I added a little bit of shading with cool gray, with blue-gray colors, I think that they started to look more interesting, less flat. For me, it was quite instructive how to color animals with white and black, adding more colors. So this one I absolutely love. It's a pity that I hadn't used a wild winter. Maybe I will still try to color it in March. The definite favorite of my winter season was this Matchstick Mouse by Morgan O'Brien. It's my one and only mouse, so I decided that I can color it the whole winter season. In December, I tried to select pictures more connected to Christmas, with Christmas tree, with gingerbread, with packing presents, but in January and February I also did pictures here, but more related to winter fun like skiing or skating. Let me show you what I managed to color so far. I tried to switch between various pencil brands. I tried polychromos, I tried Prismacolors, I tried Sucolor and Arteza. Probably Prismacolors and Sucolors so far are my favorites, but I can color on this paper with various brands, no problems at all. But I also use a lot of acrylic markers, especially pastel shades from my Tule Art and Artix sets, because I usually outline all clouds, all snow, and I love to add more snowflakes to the background. So this one I did with Prismacolors. This one I did with Sucolor pencils, and for the background I think that I started to use a mix of Castle Art and Prismacolors. I tried to slightly change the head of the mouse for various pictures, more for fun. That was my first project here, which I did with Prismacolors. I realized that with Prismacolors you probably need to use either blender or light shade of Prismacolors to get rid of the white spots and to get more smooth coverage, but I think that it's still possible to color with all pencils. Paper isn't that bad. That was also December work. It was fun to color it in the last days before Christmas because it's exactly what had happened around me. I also tried to pack my presents, and I also was in similar state with all these sticky tapes. So I really enjoyed this one. This one probably my least favorite because I don't think that with Arteza pencils I managed to do good shading on the snowman, but at least I love how I did head and scarf. The tiny friend of the mouse, it's probably my favorite character on all pictures. It's small but adorable. That's one I did just a couple of days ago because I wanted to try new color combo for the scarf. Maybe it's fun to start picture just because you want to color scarf, but still I also tried something new. I combined Derwent drawing pencils and polychromoses when I did for first layer to cover paper better with very creamy Derwent drawings, and then trying to add texture individual hairs on the fur, I used my polychromos, which are harder and with more thin tip. And as usual I added more snow and even a little bit of snow on the pine tree and on the pine cone. As I said, I did a winter fun, winter games with skiing. That's a mix of Prismacolors and something else, I believe. Skiing and skating. Here I tried to do background with markers, but I don't know if it's what was necessary. Yes, it helped me to get a light shading on the snow and on the ice, but maybe with pencils only I can get just similar result. You can see that I try to imagine how many hats and scarves my mouse has in the wardrobe, so it's part of the fun. And probably my favorite picture so far, it's this mouse with owl. I do love again this conflict of hat and scarf, and I think that owl also looks lovely, almost smiling. They are very positive, and I do love to do these small projects, but I still try to do very careful shading to be attentive to details, so even if pictures are small, I try to color them carefully. And finally, of course, my usual favorites of winter season, it's pictures by Teresa Goodrich, but unfortunately this year I hadn't touched her first winter page. How it's called? Winter Wonderland. Anyway, this winter I touched only Christmas Charm and Enchanted Christmas. Last year my most abandoned book was Enchanted Christmas, so I decided that this December I need to start from this one, and to the end of February I managed to collect quite a good amount of finished projects here. So I did this birdhouse, As usual, I use Prismacolors here, and of course for all winter pictures I need a lot of white gouache paint because I prefer to get rid of all black lines on the winter areas. Here I'm not sure if I did the right thing when I added this bouquet background. Maybe it distracts attention from the birds. And again, I suffered when I tried to do proper shading on cardinal, but at least the birdhouse itself, I do love how I did a wooden texture, metal texture. Next one I did in February, again mostly because I wanted to try new type of the wooden background. When I did first layer with alcohol markers, and then with pencils I added this texture with light and dark rings and lines on the wood. The rest I did with Prismacolor pencils. Actually, in the end of December I felt tired of all Christmas trees, Christmas wreaths, Christmas ornaments, but in February I was glad to return to the Christmas theme, so I did composition with Christmas balls, and I totally don't mind. And I also did one very unexpected page, which I didn't plan to do, but I got a request, and I think that I had like second look at this one. First, I didn't know how to color it because I wasn't very fond of the sky. But then, when I decided to add this light halo around castle, somehow it helped me to resolve my problem of the background. Some of the stars here I masked, some of them I added, and I absolutely love to color unicorns. It's not my first one, so I already know which colors I prefer to use for very delicate shading. For the skin of unicorn still to remain white, but with light shading of gray, lavender, of cool gray. And I do love how I did tail and mane with this magenta and dahlia purple colors. Very festive, and I think that without this request I wouldn't do this page, and it would be a pity because I absolutely love this fairy tale atmosphere. Oh, I think that I have another one here, which I did in the very beginning of December. Yes, that's a page which I did with my Sucolor set of pencils and with a little bit of Arteza gouache to mask the thickest black lines on the leaves, which I absolutely dislike. The whole winter season I used a lot of this Arteza gouache. It's sage green, and it helped me a lot to get proper texture on the pine tree, to add additional needles, and to mask black lines on other types of the leaves. Here wings are shiny. I hope that it's visible here. I added a little bit of metal pearls and watercolors. And you can see that Sucolor pencils, at least Black Barrel Sucolors, they are quite okay for the paper in Creative Heaven. And finally, my biggest favorite among all the books by Teresa Goodrich for the winter season. I don't have her latest one. I decided that I need to pay more attention to the available books. So Christmas Charm so far is my favorite. Here I did not many pictures, but I love them. And I tried to select various subjects. So I have one view of the outside of the shop, this one. I think that this one I selected because I wanted to practice another color for the bricks for the wall. I don't think that so far I did another page with this dark gray, reddish brown bricks. It helped me to create like Victorian style vintage atmosphere of the shop. Again, some of the areas felt very overwhelming, like with many pictures when Teresa Goodrich depicts shops, so many things inside of the windows, but the rest of it was quite fun to color. Let me put my bookmark here. Next, I decided to do one with interior design. Here I decided to use red color for some of the interior elements. I used it for the Santa, for the festive mugs, probably with cocoa, for some of the decoration, and of course for the elements of the kitchen. Because of this red color which I used here, I decided that for the decoration of the Christmas tree I will use different color palette, because it would be too much of red here. So a lot of yellow, orange, but also blue and magenta. I think my biggest achievement was that I managed to do my Christmas tree quite fluffy, again because of the a little bit of the addition of this sage green color. I'm totally not good at drawing animals in the Goodrich books. I always suffer with them, but apart from it, everything is okay. I tried to start this page with polychromos pencils. I used them on the tiles or bricks and a little bit of wallpaper, and I totally disliked how they behaved here. So I returned to my lovely Prismacolors and I was totally happy. Next one, you can see that it's also another style of picture. Here I have Christmas Eve, evening before Christmas, and we have all people, they are gathering in the church. I decided that my church will be made from wood. It was also quite interesting to do this texture and in the same time to show that the whole building is highlighted from the stained glass window and from the door with very warm yellow light here and here on the stairs. To make good contrast, I used a lot of blue for all those snow areas. I also added a little bit of more lavender and violet to make shadows to look like evening time, because you know that during evening time shadows, they are not bright blue or gray, they are more with violet shades. And I love all the details when you first decorate your Christmas trees. You can see that I limited yellow color mostly to the central part to attract all attention here. And here I tried to use a very limited amount of yellow. In such a way my church is the most bright and most shining element. And I also have soft spot for red cars, red Christmas cars, so of course I wanted to do this one. And finally, probably my favorite finished picture. Here we have like two parts of it. One is a landscape outside, which I tried to do in cold colors, a lot of blue, a lot of light blue, dark blue, and a little bit of even violet blue colors. Just a couple of bright elements, those garlands on the Christmas tree, and a little bit on the snowman. And to create good contrast, I used a lot of yellow, orange, yellow, green, red for the decoration inside of the house. I think that I managed to do very warm and very festive atmosphere inside, a very good contrast to the frozen landscape outside the window. So that's my favorite among all the finished pictures in Goodrich books this season. Well, I was thinking that I have shown you all my winter books, but then I realized that no, I actually also did winter pictures in my Klara Markova book, and I managed to color two of them. The first one was this very busy Christmas celebration in the mice house. And yeah, it was fun because here inside of the mouse house you can imagine all crazy colors for the wallpapers, for the carpet, and yeah, it was very detailed, so it was a long coloring, but I absolutely enjoyed doing all those sweets, the fireplace, and I love to color berries in the books by Klara Markova. The second one I love a little bit more, maybe because it has a lesser amount of details and it looks more well balanced. Here for this winter owls, I even managed to use my Derwent color softs for this very simple light blue icy background. The rest I did with Prismacolors. I do love both polychromoses and Prismacolors here, but when I want to blend some dark colors like I did here on Feathers of Owl, I usually prefer Prismacolors. Here I was thinking about adding some fantasy feathers to the owls. Apart from traditional gray, beige and brown colors, I decided that fantasy owls need to be more decorative. So for the first one, I added those blue and violet blue colors. Then I was thinking that maybe for the second one I can use something else for these color accents. But now I am glad that I decided to use the same colors here. I think that if I would add some other color, it would be too much, too motley. We already have quite bright spots on the girl. I deliberately used this very bright cobalt turquoise and aquamarine for her coat to make her focal point of the whole page. So the same feathers on the both sides also created nice central part of the page, and I think that when you look at it, you immediately look at the central area, and that's exactly what I needed. Of course, I wanted to color all winter pictures here, or at least I wanted to do this one because you know that I love to color gingerbread man and other sweets, but well, it will have to wait until the next winter season. And yes, finally that's all my winter snow Christmas pictures which I did during the whole season. Now I can grab all these books and put them on my shelf, maybe until December or maybe until July, because I definitely want to participate in Christmas in July event. Thank you, and I hope that you also did a lot of nice winter pictures during this season.